There's just something about certain JRPGs that feels different. Like you might boot one up, and within 5 minutes, you just know this is a world you're going to want to spend some time in. It's not always about the big story beats or the flashy system. Sometimes it's just the overall feel, the kind of game where you can settle in, explore a bit, and just feel better for being there. Now, when I say feel good JRPG, I don't mean games that avoid conflict or skip the heavy stuff. In fact, most of the ones on this list have some real stakes and emotions to them. There's always this thread of warmth running through them, a sense that no matter how rough things get, there's something worth holding on to, whether that's a friendship or a quiet town or just a great soundtrack to sit back and enjoy. Today, I'm giving you 10 feel good JRPGs to play when you just want to chill out and relax. These JRPGs understand that adventure and joy go hand in hand, so with all that said, let's jump right into it. It's hard to overstate how special Lunar is. Even among the greats of the 90s JRPGs, Lunar stood out. Not because it had the biggest world or the deepest systems, but because it really understood how to create something truly memorable. The Lunar Remastered Collection brings together Silver Star and Eternal Blue, two games that I recently experienced for the first time with the recently released Remastered Collection. From the very first scenes, you can feel it. Alex doesn't dream of saving the world, he dreams of going on an adventure. Every major character in Lunar is someone you want to root for. The remastering work is respectful. You'll see things like cleaner visuals, sharper audio, but the soul is left perfectly intact. The early 90s anime aesthetic still feels fresh today, in part because nobody really makes games like this anymore. The world of Lunar is colorful and cozy feeling. Towns actually feel distinct, not just in terms of architecture, but in the little conversations you overhear, the mini stories happening on the sidelines, and the way the party interacts with each other. There's a liveliness to it, and that all makes it even better. Of course, no talk about Lunar is complete without mentioning the soundtrack. It's not just background noise, it's a fundamental part of the game's emotional arc. It's incredible and makes the experience all the more memorable. I love these games, and they absolutely are must-play JRPGs. If there's a Tales game that truly understands the feeling of growth, not just for its characters, but for its players, it's Tales of Grace's F. This isn't a story about instantly unbreakable bonds or desired friendships. It's about screwing up, about saying the wrong thing, walking away when you shouldn't, and realizing years later that fixing things isn't that easy, but it's definitely worth it. Asbel isn't your typical JRPG hero. He's impulsive, a little dense at times, and constantly making mistakes, but watching him and his childhood friends stumble their way toward understanding each other is incredibly rewarding. Sophie, in particular, becomes the emotional heart of the group, and her journey from being a mysterious outsider to a core part of the family is genuinely touching. Honestly, Grace's F's battle system might just be the best in the entire Tales series. It's fast, it's fluid, and endlessly customizable. It hits that perfect balance where mastering it feels natural and not overly grindy. The system in place encourages experimentation, and there's always a new trick to try mid-battle without the combat feeling bloated. But it's the tone that really sticks. Even when the story leans into heavier material, there's a constant thread of optimism running through it. Grace's F believes in second chances. The extra story added for the F version drives that home perfectly. I recently played this for the first time as well on the remaster that released this year, and I definitely recommend it. Grace's F doesn't just feel good because it's fun, although it absolutely is. It feels good because it reminds you that growth is always possible. The story, the music, the art style, all come together so cohesively to make something that is truly special, in my opinion. Every time I boot up Final Fantasy IX, it feels like coming home, which is funny because it's set in a world full of floating castles and mages, but somehow it all feels immediately familiar in the best way possible. Final Fantasy IX wears its classic fantasy inspirations on its sleeve. After the futuristic sprawl of 7 and the dystopian angst of 8, 9 is like a deep breath of fresh air. A return to bright towns, funny party members, and heartfelt storytelling, but don't mistake bright for shallow. If anything, 9 carries some of the series' heaviest emotional beats. Every area in 9 feels handcrafted with love. From Alexandria's bustling streets to the forgotten summoner village, there's a warmth and attention to detail that makes exploration feel genuinely rewarding. Even random side activities have that same enjoyable, playful spirit. Musically, this is one of the best in the series. It doesn't just complement the story, it amplifies it, weaving the game's major themes into something you feel even when you're not consciously thinking about it. Final Fantasy IX feels good because it reminds you that fantasy can be fun, that you can tell a story about loss and fear and still end it with happiness. I love Final Fantasy IX for everything that it does. Hopefully, we get the remake soon because I would love to revisit this one in a new light. There's a special kind of emotion that Ni no Kuni taps into, the kind you probably haven't felt since you were a kid. It's not just the Studio Ghibli visuals, although those certainly help here. It's the way the game frames its entire journey around something so sad, but at the same time, so rewarding. Oliver's journey isn't grand in the traditional JRPG sense. He's not chosen by fate. He's not like this prophesized hero, and that simple emotional core gives the whole game a weight most like epic games can't manage. Every town you visit, every new monster you meet, every weird oddball NPC you help, it all feeds into this vibe of kindness as an act of rebellion almost. Mechanically, it's a bit of a mixed bag. The familiar raising combat is a Pokemon-like collecting mechanic that's charming, but sometimes a little bit clunky, but it doesn't matter because the atmosphere, the saturated colors, the storybook towns, and man, the soundtrack, it's so overwhelmingly incredible that you forgive the rough edges without even thinking about it. Ni no Kuni doesn't feel good because it sidesteps the heavy stuff. It actually really leans into it, and it can take you to some of the saddest places in a JRPG. However, it gives you room to process everything and to help people with small problems that slowly start to matter. The world feels comforting, even when the story isn't. This is one of the best JRPGs out there, and if you're into great stories, amazing art styles, really relaxing, chill soundtracks, this is one for you. It is a very great JRPG. At first glance, Blue Reflection's Second Light looks like it's going to be pure, lighthearted fluff, and in some ways, it is. You've got pastel colors, slice of life scenes, lots of heartfelt character moments, but underneath that soft exterior, there's a much deeper emotional story here. You're dropped into a dreamlike world with no memories of who you are as everyone explores these strange, shifting landscapes, reflections of their lost memories. The game slowly builds its emotional weight. Each new heartscape is a mini story that hits in a variety of different ways. And the best part, Blue Reflection doesn't rush you through any of it. There's a real beauty to how slow and deliberate everything feels. You build your school piece by piece, you craft new areas to explore, you take on requests not because you're grinding, but because helping each other actually feels rewarding. The game does a great job of reflecting this. Combat 2 finds that sweet spot, fast enough to stay exciting, but stylish and forgiving enough to stay low stress. Big flashy combos, incredible transformation sequences, it's all there, but it never feels too overwhelming or cluttered. Second Light is one of those games that doesn't need constant high stakes escalation to keep you engaged. It's more about living with these characters, watching them find strength through connection, and realizing that saving the world can sometimes just mean helping someone else find themselves again. It can be a little dark at times, but I love this one, and it's one that I didn't expect to enjoy as much as I did. Sakura Wars is a hard game to describe without making it sound stranger than it really is. On paper, it's about managing a failing theater team that also fights demons and giant mechs. It takes place in an alternate version of 1940s Tokyo. That all sounds like a lot, but once you're in it, the tone makes everything feel surprisingly cohesive. What holds the game together is its sincerity. The cast is optimistic, even when things are falling apart. They believe in what they're doing and performing and protecting each other and keeping the theater alive, and that sense of purpose gives the story weight, even when it gets overly dramatic. The dialogue can be a little over the top, but it fits the characters, and there's a warmth to the way they interact. The gameplay side is split between relationship building and combat. The social interactions are easily the strongest part, choosing how to respond in conversations, helping your castmates work through their doubts, seeing them slowly come together as a team. The mech battles are functional, not bad, just fairly simple, but they do the job and they don't get in the way of the pacing. What makes this game feel good is how much it values effort. It's not a game about being the best, it's about showing up, caring, and trying again when things don't go right the first time. It's also about investing in something with other people and watching it slowly come to life. And that's where it lands. I didn't expect to like this one as much as I did, but I loved it, and it's all around just one of the games that puts you in a great mood. When I first heard Square Enix was making a farming sim JRPG, I didn't know what to think. It sounded like it could be a mess or it could be something genuinely great, and honestly, to me, it's closer to the second one. Harvestella somehow manages to blend small, everyday farming life with this much bigger looming story about seasons breaking down and the world slowly falling apart. But what's impressive is that it doesn't let either side take over. The farming side stays calm and steady, and the story gives you just enough pressure without turning it into this typical save the world sprint. You start out like you would in any life sim: new village, small field, a watering can, the works. You talk to your neighbors, you grow things, you cook, but then disaster hits, and this season comes where everything dies and going outside just gets really dangerous. And suddenly, there's this tension underneath everything. The game never lets you forget that your time is really important. Still, it's definitely not a stressful game. If anything, it's slower than you'd expect. You're building routines, forming relationships, exploring at your own pace. The story does touch on heavier stuff like death, decay, technology's role in nature, but it never feels too heavy. It's reflective, but not overly dramatic. The systems are straightforward, but they feel good. Planting and harvesting actually takes some planning. Exploring dungeons gives you materials, but it also just feels good to wander around through the world. And visually, this game is gorgeous, soft, hazy. It's kind of got this dream-like feel to it, and it's the kind of place you want to just stay in for a while. Harvestella works because it gives you a reason to slow down. It doesn't rush you through a checklist. It lets you live in a world that's a little broken, but definitely still worth caring for. Grand Blue Fantasy Relink is one of those spin-offs that feels like it was made by people who really get why people love JRPGs. It's got the spectacle, sure, big magic attacks, sky battles, all that, but it's really about the cast. That's what holds it together, I think. Right away, it throws you into this colorful world that's just fun to be in. The cities are busy, the characters have personality, and the whole tone is lighter than you might expect. You're not out to stop some big cosmic threat. You're helping out towns, chasing down pirates, and slowly building up this tight-knit crew on your airship. It's more adventure than Crisis, although there's definitely a looming threat in the story. And overall, I just love how it all comes together. Combat feels great. It's fast, it's flashy, but it's still approachable. Pulling off these big combos and switching characters. There's no pressure to be perfect. It's the kind of system that's easy to sink into, especially if you want something that feels good without needing hours of setup. But honestly, it's the characters that make it so fun. They've all got this energy that makes the world feel lived in. The skits, the little conversations at camp, even just walking around the ship, there's this sense that these people genuinely like each other, and that makes every mission feel like time spent with your friends, not just gameplay. Relink feels good because it's not trying to outdo anyone. It's not grim, it's not overly self-serious. It's just a solid, well-made action JRPG that gives you space to enjoy the ride, and sometimes that's exactly what you want. Bravely Default isn't trying to surprise you. It's not trying to upend the genre or redefine what a JRPG can be. It just wants to be a great adventure, the kind you can lose yourself in for dozens of hours without ever feeling worn down. And honestly, sometimes that's exactly what I need. Everything about Bravely Default 2 feels familiar in the best way possible. We've got a small party with big dreams, a world slowly falling into chaos, and a villainous force hiding just behind the scenes. But instead of feeling like a checklist of tropes, the game breathes new life into them in a multitude of ways. The Brave and Default system is still one of the best, by the way. Building up turns to unleash devastating combos or playing defensively, gambling on timing, makes every battle a mini tactical challenge. It's fast enough to stay exciting, but smart enough that mashing your way through it just won't cut it. And when you layer the deep, ridiculously flexible job system on top, you get this endless puzzle box of party builds and strategies that keeps evolving as you play. But mechanics aside, it's the vibe that makes Bravely Default 2 feel so good. The world is bright without being overly cartoonish, the music is amazingly comforting, and the towns feel like places where people actually live. Your party isn't just trying to be the most dramatic or broken, they're just people who find each other by chance and decide to do the right thing. There's a lot of comfort in that. It's a simple game, yeah, but simple doesn't mean shallow. Sometimes the most comforting stories are the ones that don't reinvent the wheel. If you want a traditional JRPG story with modern innovations, then you will definitely find that here. If I had to pick one game on this list that really nails what a feel-good JRPG is, it's Atelier Yumiya. The Atelier series has always been about low stakes and personal stories, but this one takes everything that works about that formula and just tightens it up. It's not about saving the world, it's about making it better in small, steady ways. Yumiya as a protagonist is genuinely easy to root for. She's upbeat, yeah, but not in the forced, overly bubbly way. She messes up, she doubts herself, she learns. That kind of optimism lands a lot harder when you actually see her earn it. The story isn't building around big dramatic moments, it's about small wins, improving your craft, helping a neighbor, making the town feel just a little more alive. And the core gameplay loop, gathering, crafting, experimenting with alchemy, it's just fun. It hits that perfect rhythm where you always have something to work toward, but nothing feels urgent. Every time you make a better item or unlock something new, it feels like progress that matters. Not because your stats went up, but because the world responds to it. Shops grow, people change, new areas open up. Visually, this game is gorgeous. Everything's soft, hand painted, almost storybook like. There's no pressure to rush, no massive clock ticking down, just you, your workbench, and a town that's slowly becoming more vibrant because of what you're putting into it. Atelier Yumiya works because it doesn't try to do too much. It just asks you to care about the craft, about the people, about the place, and in return, it gives you this really rewarding sense that what you're doing, however small, actually matters, and that's more than enough. Anyway, that's it for me in this one. JRPGs are known for going big, world ending threats, chosen heroes, that kind of thing, but sometimes the ones that stick with you the longest, they're the ones that slow down a little. That give you space to breathe. Feel Good JRPGs aren't just about ignoring the hard stuff. Most of these games still deal with loss, conflict, uncertainty, but they do it in a way that lets hope stay in the picture. And that's why these games land for me. Not because they're light or easy, but because they care about the time you spend in them. They care about the connections you make to these characters. You don't have to save the world to make an impact. Sometimes it's enough just to make something a little better than it was and just enjoy a great soundtrack, a great art style, lighthearted characters. It's a totally different kind of game, and sometimes you really need that. So hopefully these games caught your interest, and if you played any of these games, let me know in the comments below. Also, give me some recommendations that didn't make the list. I look forward to hearing your thoughts, and until next time, I'm out.